Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Open Discussion Podcast. I have a good friend with me today, Big Mike Sutterfield. What's going on, brother? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Just glad to be here with you today.
I appreciate you, brother. So, Mike transitioned not too long ago after serving over 28 years of active service. Retired as garrison CSM after serving as multiple battalion CSM, brigade CSM, and garrison CSM. I think you're the first garrison CSM I've came across who have multiple garrison under there as far as responsibility. That is pretty impressive.
Since they are everything's within one footprint, within one gate.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bavaria is a little different. It's being spread out all across the whole, if you will, state of Bavaria, and then all the things that are unsaid with everything that was going on back then. Back to the east,
Yeah.
it's even worse now. Some of the stuff we did, now they knew have a new garrison in Poland.
Hey, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So
so
you
Poland's
you
its
had
own garrison.
you have over 7 operations as far as deployment. Different non-combat related, but over 7 as far as operation deployment. Transition after transition is served over DFV, and now you are one of 14 members of the Chief of Staff of the Army, retired soldier council. So we're going to discuss that later on because that's a big label over there. I know how much you guys getting paid. I mean, you got to find me a job up there, Mike. But that is amazing. Even after
I'll show you exactly how much we got paid.
Zero, I know. That's
Actually,
amazing.
they do offer to pay you your difference in your active duty pay for that week, but
Okay.
it's detrimental and messing up your pay after you're out. It's not as easy as going to S1 to fix your pay.
Tell me about it. That's amazing, man. I mean, after you transition, you're still serving veterans, different capacity. And again, I appreciate you for coming on the show. Just want to jump right into it. All right, we're gonna come back to all the good things you've been doing so far. And I've known you for some time now. And I was talking to a friend of mine not too long ago. I said when I first got to Germany, there are some people that I need to talk to. And the garrison command team was one of the first folks that I know I had to talk to because of just the task was given, right, to build a new brigade from scratch, and you and your command team, I mean, facilitated that and assisted us pretty well. I really appreciate your help, and when I spoke to you for the first time, you said, "Hey, Z, I got you. Whatever you need, just let me know." So I just want to say, brother, I appreciate you for your assistance and just to get right into it, man. After 28 years of service, I really want to go back from the beginning, how it all started. We all have different reasons for why we serve, but really like to know why the Big Mike, decided, so I'm gonna go and serve and be a daggum aviation or some aviator branch, whatever the case may be.
Well, that you're going way back. So now we're talking early
Not 1820, not
1991,
1825, Mike. Not
yeah,
1825, right?
1992. So you met my wife, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Lovely lady.
we were already married at this point in time, and I'm an Air Force brat. My father actually was an air traffic controller in the Air Force. That'll play in here in a second. And being a brat from the Air Force, you go to the get sick when you're a kid, you go to the hospital, you have your ID card, boom, boom, boom. Well, been married at this point in time, not even quite 2 months, and Kelly got sick, flu-like symptoms or something. So she had to take time off work, and they wanted you can't come back to work and shit. The doctor's
What?
and coming out of the doctor, they walk out, and the nurse comes chasing me. Hey, you got to pay. You got to pay. I'm like, pay for the doctor visit. Granted, this is again almost 35 years ago. I said, okay, I don't have an ID card at this point because I'm not a dependent to my father anymore. I'm like, I've never had to deal with this. So what's it look like? So in 1992, $82 later, we walk out of there and we don't have that money. I mean, that was like food money for the rest of the month type stuff. Like, ooh, this life stuff is a little different. I mean, we both had jobs. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there was we weren't. I mean, I was an assistant manager at Kmart. She worked at McDonald's. I had no benefits. She had no benefits. It was hourly employee. So, okay. So we talked about it. Next day, I went to the recruiter. Then, bang, boom, boom. I was like, I'll join the National Guard. I can get some benefits that way. Oh, no, you don't. You get benefits for when you're serving. I know this now. But you need to do this. So they gave me, back in Arkansas where I came in the Army from, you took the ASVAB in high school, required. So I already, okay. But it had been I already had college in my belt a little bit at this point in time. So I said, okay. I'll take your eyes out again. And did all that. And they said, here you go. Okay. Fast forward, going to the MEPS, and Kelly's sitting there with me, and people are coming out of the MEPS station from talking to the career counselor and saying, hey, they offered me these 3 jobs. They've offered me this and this and this. I remember 3 jobs. That's what one guy specifically said. They came out. Oh, and they came out and handed me 3 seats full of jobs, available. I'm like, all right. So sit down with Kelly and go through the list. And there, at that point in time, was 93 Charlie air traffic control. That wouldn't be there if it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah.
That was the start of my 6-year commitment, first off, pretty rigorous training and stuff like that. So, and a good skill set. So they got to keep you a little bit. So I signed up like that, and the rest is history. Kept doing the good stuff that you've seen, and that didn't start when I was there in Bavaria. And promotion, new job, boom, 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 boom. And next thing you know, I'm waking up in the morning, they're saying, hey buddy, your health is pretty bad, you got to go home. We'll probably get to that too, I'm sure. That's how it all started.
It all started.
Basically needing health insurance for my wife.
Man, that is crazy though, because I know we talked about it briefly back in Germany. And if you was to tell me, I didn't know you first came in as an air traffic controller. I didn't know that. I tell you, just one of those mechanic guy working the deck when you were 60 or Chinook or something like that. You finally got some brains on you. I got you now. It all makes sense, that Mike. So it makes sense. So
that's why I can juggle so many things at once.
I got you. So you went through the first, as far as transition process, you went through air traffic control or whatever the case may be. So how did you, after that, what really happened in terms of the military career so far, from being enlisted to serving different capacity, after that to the brigade, battalion, and different assignments and stuff? How was that? How can you explain that, coming from your background, in terms of the things you had to navigate while you joined the service? But most importantly, did you believe so far that was a good thing for you?
Best thing for me, I'll tell you, my career turned around 2000 to 2003, right after I get back from my second court in Korea, young staff sergeant, and I come to then Fort Rucker, where I was actually on orders to Fort Bragg to go, be a platoon sergeant for a airborne air traffic control platoon. And they changed my orders a couple of days before leaving Korea to go to Fort Rucker, and I was going to go PKIT. Okay, never been here before, got it. But Army says go. Okay, I'm staff sergeant, Roger. So move out. I land here and go to the Soldier Service Center, and I go and said, here's my orders. I'm supposed to go to the first 13th and be an instructor. And they go, no, you got to go sit down over there, staff sergeant. Oh, okay, why? Just sit over there. You're going to get a phone call. We got to grade on something. Like, okay. So I sat down. About 10 minutes later, they come out and said, okay, you need to go to see Sergeant Major Rabone at the NCO Academy. I said, I graduated BNOC. I'm showing my age again. And they go, no, you've got to go interview for him to go be the instructor for BNOC. I'm like, well, I'm supposed to go to over here. Nope, go interview him. He was the first one to answer the phone. Literally, that was what they told me. So I go, and I kid you not, this guy was from Guam. He had been in the Army. He was in the Army 4 years prior to me being born. And so this is the first time I'm like, my actual, as many times as I won soldier boards and brigade the quarter, brigade soldier the quarter boards and stuff, I never really had a one-on-one conversation with a sergeant major that day. We interviewed. He's like, sit me down and go, okay, so why do you want to work here at the NCO Academy? I'm like, Sergeant Major, I don't.
I didn't choose it.
He goes, what do you mean? I said, I was supposed to go to Fort Bragg and go be leading the platoon of air traffic controllers in 82nd. They diverted me, and this morning they told me to sit down and come talk to you. I said, so I don't want to come here to be an instructor. I want to go lead soldiers. He goes, you are now at this point in time, we've changed MOSs, 15 Quebec, BNOC, SGL. That's it. That was the one thing. I talked to him several times after that. He goes, I don't want people who want to be here. I want people to be that's wanting to be out there. And I'll tell you that those 3 years of teaching BNOC and then ANOC, that time, because I got promoted during that time period, set me on the path for the rest of my career is of there's the professionalism of the Army and it being a profession, not a job. In my mind, that day was the turning point. Not that I wasn't already successful, but that day turned it. So I think that the long answer to your short question.
No, that's pretty cool because my situation was a little bit different, right? I was, of course, back at break and I came on assignment to go to drill sergeant school. I've always wanted to be a drill sergeant. I always want to be a drill sergeant. To be a drill sergeant or potentially serve as an OC over JROTC because I do believe, I was good at what I was doing so far because some guys took care of me and taught me pretty well. And then the sergeant major at the time, I'm not going to call his name. He called me his office. He said, "Hey, man, you ain't going anywhere." I said, "Excuse me?" So no, we got a plans for you. You ain't going anywhere. If it's something to tell you we got a plans for you, it can go both negative or positive, right? I was like, what he's talking about. But overall, it turned out pretty good. I mean, I was somewhat upset because I didn't understand the bigger picture of things, for which I was given another position, the E6 in the E7 position. So that was the plan moving forward. So sometimes things can go different than how you want it, but overall, sometimes they can produce a positive overall result. Just to just explore the piece of that CSM talk to you one-on-one, because you said it was one of the first time you had a face-to-face contact with a senior non-commissioned officer at that level of pay grade. You said of the battalion CSM, the brigade CSM, as far as a garrison, you've been with general officer. How important do you think it is for soldiers to have access to those senior officers and senior non-commissioned officer, and what impact you think that can have overall?
So first, let me go back. I'm going to add to a story. So what opened my eyes to how I needed to treat soldiers. So my first job as a sergeant major coming out of the class 60 was the brigade ops sergeant major for 1st Aviation Brigade at Fort Rucker. So that's overall the students. Now, one of the subordinate units was Fort Huachuca. At that time, it was called the UASTB, Manned Aerial System Training Battalion. So I was sent out there one thing back. Brigade commander sent me out to talk to some soldiers here at Rucker, and I couldn't get them to say 2 words to me. They just fumbled all over themselves. I mean, I'm talking staff sergeants who were reclassified. They just could not. I mean, it was like, man, these guys are going to be air traffic controllers, and they can't string 2 words together to make a sentence.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
Why is that? So I talked to my dad, retired master sergeant, E7 from the Air Force. He goes, "Well, Mike, when was the first time you ever talked to a sergeant major?" And I brought it back. I'm like, that was that conversation we just had about Sergeant Major Obama. I said, "Then," he goes, "Yeah, you don't exist. You're a mythical beast. Your picture's on the wall. They got to remember you, and that's all you are." I'm like, so I took that to heart. A couple weeks later, I'd go out to Fort Huachuca, and I'm talking to these students, and I already took it on. So I first got to understand I'm not just the rank right here. So did that, and I walked into a classroom. I was going to get a little funky here. I said, "PG-13, okay?"
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so go into the classroom, and the class is all standing. They all jump up. How do you like, okay, just relax a little bit. So I understand today was the first time y'all flew. They go, "Roger, sir, Major, Roger." Okay. So I'm standing in front of one of the soldiers that across the desk from them. They got their maps on the desk, and they got all the paperwork. They want to ask you a question. You can't lie to me. I said, "No, I'm serious. Do not lie to me." Today was the first time you flew. You got a little wood, dude. You see the blood. I mean, literally the cartoon where you can physically see that on that kid's face. And I'm like, "I said, don't lie to me." He goes, "Roger, Sergeant Major." Blood came back up. I couldn't get the class to stop talking. They realized I'm a person, not just this rank. So, I mean, literally, I said, "Hey guys, I got to go see the next class." After about 15, 20 minutes, they just tell me all this stuff and how proud they are to do what they're doing. And we were flying the drones. I want to say, I think they flew Shadows for the first time, because then Shadows become Gray Eagle operators back then. And they were telling me and they were so proud of talking, and they just really wanted to talk to me. It was open. So I took that through the rest of my time as a sergeant major to make sure and I had these talks several times. I'm a person. Yes, you're going to call me sergeant major. We're going to do all that respect. I will let you know when it gets to that point where you need to stop talking and become that. I want to talk with you. And you saw that in Bavaria
Yeah.
with soldiers walking up and just, you got to have that openness to lead. That you have to build that trust. And the way you can build that trust is for them to believe that you are a person and their interest is at heart. So I did it
No,
again. I think
you're
I took
right
a
because
long way around to get
no,
to your
no,
short
no, no.
question.
It's just great because that's something I've always echoed. I've used to use the phrase, no matter what rank you serve, you and I are considered expendable. You would serve your time and then you would leave. I was in the airport. For the matter of fact, I flew from Germany, headed back to Fort Knox. Right, I had to sit on the E7, the E8 board. I think the E7 board, whatever, the Fort Knox. And then I was in the airport. I believe I flew in Chicago. Yeah. So I saw a retired 3-star general that used to be the 82nd Airborne, commanding general. And he went big 3-star, whatever. Carry his own bags, because you and I both know as a division level, commanding general, you're at 1-star, you have a whole team along with you. You go somewhere, everybody, when you walk in the room. Now he's carrying his own bags. And I'm sitting there, oh man, this is life now, right? And I tell folks, as you just stated, right, no matter what position you're in while serving, man, you have to make yourself very, very accessible because
Mm-hmm.
it's not about you. It's about the men and women for which you are serving. That's what it's all about, right? We talk about serving leaders so far, but then sometimes some leaders take the rank above what it's supposed to be. It's not about you. It's about the soldiers. It's about the contact and just a discussion and helping folks
Yeah,
out so far. If you was
the rank gives me the ability to help you.
Yes. Yes. That's how it's supposed to be so far. Who would you say in terms of officer, warrant officer, enlisted, had a profound impact on you in terms of shaping your leadership philosophy in terms of who you are today, coming through the ranks?
Hmm.
You can say me. That's okay,
I
No,
mean,
I'm just playing, Mike. I'm
but
just
there's
playing.
um, uh, a couple, I would say. So my first squad, so I'll honestly tell you, I fully believe that your first unit of assignment is going to
Yeah.
make or break you in the military,
I
specifically
agree.
the Army. If you have good
I agree.
leaders for you in your first assignment, I can directly attribute my success to my immediate team leader, squad leader, platoon sergeant, and first sergeant from my first unit of assignment when I was in E2. So of those, um, starting at the immediacy, my first team leader, a guy named Ross Shear, who's the guy that sat me down and said, "Here's all the things you need to do to get promoted." Explained the correspondence course system and everything
Yeah.
for the
The old
points and
days.
all that. Old
Yeah.
days, the big
Corresponding
yellow
courses.
books.
Yep.
So he
Yep.
signed me up for books and did all the stuff to the point where Kelly was under. I had a stack of books on the kitchen table when we were young. And she goes, "What are all these books?" I said, "Oh, they're correspondence courses." "What do they do?" I said, "Well, if I do them, I get promotion points." And she looked at me, and I'm not kidding. "You don't eat dinner until you do one of them books."
That's my girl.
So that's where it started. But so he later down the road, I ended up being his platoon sergeant, rating him. I sat next to him in BNOC. I stood next to him, getting promoted to E3 the same day he made sergeant. So
Mm.
and then later after we completed BNOC, I became his platoon sergeant and rated him as his platoon sergeant. Later down the road, he asked me. We were asking some questions. We were both in Korea at different locations at the same time. "Hey, I need some help doing this," and I was helping him with how. Don't want to be a problem. Like, "Ross, you're not a problem. This is what we do. You did
Yeah.
that. You are the reason I can do this now." Now, the one guy that really opened my eyes up to my ability to be more than just a young soldier. So I was in Haiti in 1994. My platoon sergeant, a guy named O'Daniel, sat me down and says, "Special Sutterfield, you can be a great air traffic controller, or you can be a great soldier. But you can't be both. You need to decide." I'm like, "Well, D, I think I can do both, honestly." So he challenged me without even knowing he challenged me to do good at both. And he wasn't wrong. It is the rarity. But so that was in '94. 10 years later, uh, almost to the day, he's selected or inducted into the Sergeant Audie Murphy Club. At the same time, the Army Aviation Association of America selected me as Air Traffic Manager of the Year.
Mm.
So I think that because of his challenge that you can't do both, I was able to do so. Because otherwise I would have just kept plodding along,
Yeah.
doing what, and I wouldn't say I was just doing enough to keep out of trouble, but it opened my eyes to, you're right. Let me do that and prove you not wrong, but just that, hey, this is, there is a way to be very highly professional and technically professional. I think that was in the show creed. I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Technically proficient.
that is a good point. That is a good point. I mean, I think it is essential, right? It is critical that we have leaders that impact soldiers' life. You are absolutely right in terms of your first duty station. When I got the full SEAL, because I went to basic training, AIT, and got stationed at full SEAL. The first question I asked myself, who did head that I pissed off? Because I didn't know what force was all about, and I had a section chief at the time because I'm an old field television man, and had a very positive impact on me along the line. Every section chief that I had was quality platoon sergeant had a profound impact on me that shaped me for who I am so far. So bringing it back in terms of that impact that sergeant first class had on you, how important you think it is so far for today in terms of leadership? For soldiers to have access to a coach or a mentor or just
Yeah.
a counselor. How important is it? So
So
you
I
think?
actually, when I talk to the NCO Academy or other units have me come in and speak at the professional developments, that's the number one thing. And I even did that when I was over in my brigade. PME was part of the stuff. And technically, was find you a mentor, find you somebody who is going to tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear, even if
Yeah.
it's not what you want to hear.
Hmm.
It could be a friend, it could be this, it could be that. But if you don't have that, somebody who's going to tell you the honest to God truth and tell you that the emperor has no clothes, then you don't have that. So luckily, as we progress, that gets smaller and smaller and smaller. There's
Yeah.
not as many people you can talk to. So luckily, and Mike, the garrison commander that I had when you were there, yeah, he is one of those guys. I still talk to Adam on a fairly regular basis. And there's other folks, Lou, I still call him and talk with him because I can talk to him at those points in time. There's other people inside it, coming back, you know, definitely can look in the eye and say, that is a person that I know if I talk to them, they're going to tell me the honest to God truth. And if they don't, they're going to give me their best
Yeah.
advice for me. And I've had that conversation, so we bring, my both my children were in the army. So I've had
Yeah.
that conversation with both of them is, whenever they called me, I was a sergeant major. So, uh, it started off as a 19 Delta cast out, then became a 15 Delta. Both times when he was, I'll always give you three answers. You ask me one question, I'll give you three answers. I just need to know how you're asking me. Are you asking me as a sergeant major? Are you asking me as your father? Or are you asking me as a friend? Because depending on how you're asking me the question, the answer could be completely different.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
understanding that, and that's the same concept you got. I went forward when I was talking to family members. Like, if you're asking me as a sergeant major, I'll tell you this. You're asking me what I would do as a personality, I would do this. Uh,
Yeah.
you've got to choose which one's right for you.
Makes sense though, and so we always advocating right for low enlisted or just our subordinates to somewhat find a mentor, a coach, or whatever the case may be. But one thing that I saw so far is that leaders at the higher action line, to some extent, are somewhat reluctant, right, to find themselves as far as a mentor as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because the perception here, the preconceived notion here is that I've made it to the top, I have all the answers, I can figure everything out. So you being as far as a garrison CSN, managing 4, 5, 6 different as far as garrison, sitting in different meetings on different panel, whatever the case may be. How important you think it is for battalion, the brigade, and army level CSN, or just officers, whatever, to have somewhat of a mentor, right? Somebody who they can talk to They don't have to be that specific person within your CMF, but somebody outside your CMF, because sometimes selecting the right
It's even
mentor can go a long
preferred.
way.
Yeah, it's even
Yeah,
preferred that they're not somebody that you work with or have worked for, maybe worked for in the past, but
yeah,
it is you will make bad decisions throughout your career. I know I did um, with the information that I was provided at that point in time.
hmm
The mentor is somebody you can talk to, and they may never say two words. I've had that happen too many times. Go in there,
mm
talk through the problem. And yeah, I said, get done. They go, okay, so what are you going to do? Well, this. All I needed was you to hear me, but I knew you were going to hear me. You're listening to listen, not listening to speak. And that's a different type of mentorship, because I'm not asking you to tell me what to do. I'm asking you to hear what I think. And I need to ask you for validation. I'm asking you to just let you be the sounding board. Say what I got to say. And if I don't make sense, tell me it don't make sense.
yeah, because you have some mentors who they're trying to resolve the situation for you. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
can't be bringing some issue to them. They want to fix it right away. I think it's a recipe for failure. There's nothing wrong you trying to assist somebody, but I've always adopted the idea is that if somebody bring an issue to me, I will ask them. So, what do you think? How should we do it? Because it gives them the flexibility to think a little bit critically about it so far. Because if you are so reliant on somebody else to fix the problem for you all the time, you're not going to progress as overall leader. Uh, there is a big discussion, right? Coming up. You class 60, I'm 66, so I know you guys went down to the academy and played golf all day. We learned some things in there, you know. Yeah, so
Yeah.
everybody wants to be, that maneuver battalion or maneuver brigade CSN. The idea of being
Mm.
a garrison CSN is like, oh no, 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 no. But working with you firsthand and observing you guys, and just had to get for me, I had to learn about the garrison just because on how we were somewhat, a design. How will you describe, a brigade CSM, maneuver brigade, whatever the case may be, whatever the case we want to call it, compared to a garrison CSM? And in your opinion so far,
But
I
well,
mean, there
since
is
I
a
had
distinct
both,
difference between both jobs. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have
yeah.
both, right?
But
Both of them completely different so far.
so number one, most garrisons um, are your first '06 level command. It just so happened that Bavaria and there's a small number. Bavaria, Stuttgart, Bragg, Hood uh, require you to be a post brigade CSM. And in Bavaria's case, post brigade plus training TRADOC time because of the nature of
Hmm
750C. Now, have we been feeling it that way lately? Not so much. Just so happened that when the guy that was selected to take over Bavaria didn't want the job, I was already in Germany doing the G3 position for the TS for the 21st TSC,
Yeah,
which is
25
really
TSC. Yeah.
odd for taking over a logistics command as an aviator.
Yeah.
But there was a specific reason that Sergeant Major Delgado asked me to do it at that time. I only did it for 90 days because of the timeline. But here's what I would say: if you are a progressing sergeant major and you want a challenging job, a garrison is going to challenge you more than any maneuver brigade ever will. Because in a maneuver brigade, I say execute, you execute. Who
Yeah.
was I going to tell to execute anything in a garrison?
Yeah.
I just had
The
no
garrison.
tasking authority for you. My job was to try to figure out how to get what you needed done with my civilian workforce that I can't tell anything to, or on my tenant activities, AVs, DFAS, or not DFAS, but DOL, Director of Logistics. In our case, DODIA, schools, and then you name all the other isms, and then we had the RAF. Throw the RAF in
Yeah.
there, and on top of that, and then you standing up a whole new unit that you don't even have equipment yet, and we got to find you motor pool space, and we got to find you soldiers to do
hmm
that, and we got to, and then in process them housing, housing crisis. We were there together doing that, and in Garrison in the States, you know how many contracts they have for housing? One.
Mm-mm.
You know how many contracts we had out there in Bavaria?
Can we keep it count?
70,
Probably.
72.
Huge difference.
72 contracts, and that's in a mixture of off post houses, on post houses, and oh, by the way, you don't get OHA. It's not paid to you. Garrison pays your rent whether you're living in that house or not.
Or not, yeah.
That house being sitting empty, we're paying rent for that house anyway. So it's the things that you learn and how to operate. The hospitals are supposed to support them. As they're supporting your population, you are there to support them with the facility maintenance and things that they may need, challenges they may be having, aid access. I just deal with all this now as a retiree council co-chair here on Fort Novacell, what was Fort Rucker, and answering retirees' questions of how do I get on post? Well, you just never changed of how you get on post. Driver's license or your ID card. If you're not a retiree, whatever documentation you have, you go in, you request, and they'll give you a pass, as long as you don't have any warrants. If you have a warrant, you may sit there for a minute, and then you may not have.
Yeah, so sit for a while.
Oh, I think did my headphones just go off?
No, you should be
Okay.
good. I can hear you. Yeah, you still, I
mine
can
just
hear
went
you.
off. I think I know why. Hang on a second. See if I can turn it back on. Had a phone call come in. It should say device connected.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. We're back. We're recording again.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, we good. Yeah, no, that's pretty good because, like I said, a lot of folks. That I think you made a very good point because a lot of seeing even officers and seeing non-commissioned officers from the battalion to brigade level, some of them goes on the installation, never talk to the garrison command team, understand what's going on and so far. Those are folks you want to talk to, understand, because everything that happened on the installations, the garrison touches everything so far.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's critical that seeing officers and seeing non-commissioned officers learn the importance of the role of the garrison command team and just understanding what to bring to the fight, right? Because of course they are there to assist you, us as far as a war fighter, if you want to use that terminology, to where giving you the resources to make sure that you focus on the task at hand. But it's very, very critical that relationship is built properly in terms of the garrison with as far as the unit on that installation. If you was to describe relationship.
I'm going to add to that.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I didn't realize all that either until I was, to the garrison sergeant major. So when I was a brigade sergeant major, me and the garrison sergeant major here at Novacell had some pretty significant discussions. When I got over to Bavaria and took over, I called the guy. I said, I want to apologize. What I have learned is not that I was in the right or wrong. I was asking you the wrong question to get the answer that I was looking for. I was giving you a problem, but I wasn't articulating the right problem to help me do what I need to do. I understand that now because I'm dealing with that on this side.
Yeah.
So being a brigade sergeant major already, when I'm talking to y'all, versus in this case, he had never been a brigade sergeant major. He actually came out of TCR to do that job. So he didn't have a correlation of what I was asking him as a brigade sergeant. Whereas, when you start asking me questions, I had a big correlation being in your job.
Yeah.
What you were actually asking. And you didn't have to work through trying to articulate what you needed to me because
you had to understand it already, really. Yeah.
So that's and then what you'll find is in my case, we're managing 6+ cities, geographically dispersed, completely different problems. The problems we had on Tower Barracks were nowhere near the same problems we had over on Road Barracks.
Yeah, it's different.
But it was the same thing. But how to manage those problem sets with the staff and through the command were completely different. The answer was completely different, depending on your requirements. That's what I do. You got to take every situation in its own, utilizing your past experiences to inform what you're doing. But every situation, and I used to use that today. Every situation I have with an employee stands on its own, no matter what problem set is, because their environment is different for everyone. I contribute directly to my garrison sergeant. I learned a little bit of that stuff too at the food.
Mhm. Yeah,
It was reinforced at the garrison.
that's pretty good. That's pretty interesting. Because I had to learn pretty quick, the role of the garrison command team, and I knew that in order for my brigade to be successful, I needed to create a good relationship with that garrison command team. Really understand as far as how you guys, as far as was somewhat structured to where who I can talk to, the XO, whoever I can talk to make sure that my brigade overall was provided the best resources to make sure we're successful. How would you describe, right, the relationship between the garrison command team and not installation command team, right? Because because every installation commander or sergeant major believe the garrison belongs to them for some reason. To some extent, you can make that argument, but also there can be a conflict of interest, but also there's also can be a friction between that installation CSM and that garrison CSM. From your
Mm-hmm.
vantage point, where you have the experience before, how will you describe, or how critical you think that relationship has to be, and what are some things that you believe can derail that relationship? Really?
So, last week on this retired council, retired soldier council, sitting on the 3-star the coaches with the previous SMA, we had this conversation of what does, because we're talking about what garrison requirements for support retirees. So he's talking to the previous senior mission commander, division commander, corps commander. So,
Yeah, Anderson, I think. Team General Anderson, I think.
yeah, that's the garrison. And, they actually, those senior mission commanders go to a course specific, and they have, it's only a few days to tell them, here's what the garrison does for you and how you utilize the garrison command team and installation management command, what that is. Some of them, I don't know when and where they get that, but they may not always catch it. And they want to, technically, we don't work for them, but we do. I think that's a problem that we did have is that senior mission commander should be in the garrison commander's rating chain. Right now, well, at least it was 5 years ago, was not. And we kind of looked at it with the 2 commanders I had. Because they just commanders. We may work for Empire. That's why we're here to support that individual mission. So, yeah, we got to follow the MCOM rules, but inside of the MCOM rules envelope, how do we get to yes for what that commander needs? And if you look at it like that, how do I get to yes, not no? But sometimes the answer is no. I mean, there were several times that I had to tell, no, I can't do that with my resources. You want it done, write it down so I can divert resources from something else that, you think, yeah. So, the garrison has several different options. Some of it, like the family program, MWR, that money is allocated, and you understand the assessment process, and it's allocated to do those things. I can't take an MWR building and put a unit in it to work. It can't. So that having ensured that the senior mission commander understands that is probably just as important as the garrison command team understanding that how do I support that commander? And if you, so sometimes those things aren't congruent.
Yeah.
They come together. At the end state, the senior mission commander signs off and says, do this. That's where I go. Let him fight with the bigger guys upstairs. It's not my job. My job is to support you.
That's pretty cool.
You saw
How
that
would
in
you
action. That's why I do.
so for current garrison command team, because you serve in a position where you have multiple as far as garrison on your jurisdiction in terms of responsibility, what are some do's and don'ts, some things you say, hey man, hey lady, there's things you want to stay away from, some advice and recommendation you can provide to the folks who are serving as a garrison, because the garrison command position is a very complex position, the things you have to deal with, because for you guys, because I watch not just the garrison itself, but you still have to deal with the local community as well. Within around Graph alone, you have probably 4 or 5 different communities for which folks was, military folks over reside. You have to talk to those folks, build those key relationship with them and stuff like that. What would be some recommendation will you provide to folks who are currently serving in those capacity or potential to serve as a garrison command team?
So understand number one, intent. What's commander's intent? Your garrison commander's intent, the income intent, and that senior mission commander's intent. That, if you can't operate with just that little bit, you're going to have trouble. So the do's and don'ts. There's not a whole lot of don'ts because it's all your problem. If somebody comes to you and says, "This is the problem," it doesn't matter. It's mine. So number one, don't try to say, "Oh, I can't do this or I can't do that." Now that may be the answer eventually, but not on the initial contact. Initial contact is, got it. I'll get some more information and we'll figure it out. The number two is personality. You got to have the right personality. Network. Then I'm going to say it. Networking is, as you know, comes into a bigger play as you exit the military and your transition. It's your net worth is your net worth. I was able to get things done, like you said, on the outside story. We had we got to the things from yourself. The whole side set up inside that 2 o'clock in the morning. Feeding people. Well, the road they weren't on our at that point, but the road they were on only goes to that, and then all the folks. So yeah, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's only going to be a doctor. We're getting stuff from Mexico saying, "Oh, all your soldiers are driving drunk and this." So like, hey, police chief, and here's so I'm not pulling my soldiers over, whatever. They're wrong. But let's move this up onto this highway, 4 miles away, and see what happens. And he's like, "Well, you told him what was going on." He was like, "Yeah, that's targeting. Whatever word that it is in German."
What term you want to use, right?
Yeah, so they pulled it up onto the highway there. The word there. Pulled it up onto the highway, and you know what we found out? There were more Germans driving trucks at that time of night than there were soldiers and
Get out of here.
Americans. And guess what? Is, you will, coffers, because paying the fines. It went up. So that was personality driven. That's because I had talked to him several times. Had a personal relationship. Hey, we had that ability, and I didn't bring him the car. I didn't come in and say, "You'll stop doing this."
Yeah.
Understand this? And he didn't know that was happening until once Steve figured out the whole picture. Yeah, move it, and he was able to make the area more safe. That's really what it comes down to. That's why they do it, because you want to punish people, but it increases the safety of the community, both the community and the social.
I remember exactly what you're talking about, man. I was there and I saw it myself firsthand, reading those damn blotter report every day morning. So it was something real nice to look at, right? If you think about it. So you just talk about networking and transition. Man, I want to segue into the transition phase. I know you are doing a big job and good work within the transition space in terms of assisting veterans and family members as they transition. How will you describe it's a two-part question, right? How will you describe your transition, in your own opinion, if your transition was a success or some improvement was needed? And then if you can segue into what you're doing over the DFV and then transition into Chief of Staff of the Army as far as retired soldier council, that's something I want to talk about a little bit more if you can.
So first, I retired during COVID. In the middle of COVID. So a lot of the transition stuff that we have in place or have in place wasn't accessible. I didn't have the ability to go and do any networking right before got out, and some of the things I had planned to do, and a lot of the other stuff was virtual through the program.
Yeah.
And I own that program. So as the Garrison Sergeant Major, the program is my direct. We don't do a good job at it because there's no command influence. There's no command about it, even though we have those meetings like, hey, you got these many people in this window that have gone. I had those conversations with senior commanders. Like, I need them to continue to do my job. And then one of them even told me, it's going to hurt my retention. So,
Yeah.
well, I told them, I guarantee you, if you send them to the best, I'll get them to request for you. Because they're going to realize they're not going to do that. For those that are just, I'm done. You know,
Yeah.
and that actually, that is proven. So the transition program, here's the problem. And it's not that we don't do enough. We are doing everything we can. It's to transition an individual. We're a big army. You know, 1.1 plus million soldiers, 400 and some odd, 480,000 positions in the army. That's large. You show me a company that's got that many people. And, you know, we transition tens of thousands of soldiers a day. There's just no way to sit down individually and Mike and Sam have somebody walk them through the process. It's never going to happen. So there are going to be gaps. All I can do is give you the big picture. You know, one of the problems I was working last week with the Retired Soldier Council is that the VA benefits need to be told to a soldier sooner in their career. Well, I do VA claims with the DAB. I understand there's 63 VA programs that you may or may not apply for, be authorized to use or be before. However, I won't know that until you don't know. You know, so we can give you an idea of what those are, but when's the right time? Do I tell you when you're in basic training? Do I tell you when you go through through PME? Hey, I'm there to learn how to be a soldier. I'm not worried about getting out yet. Do I tell you 180 days out? Most senior soldiers are still trying to figure out how to do their job, continually do their job. I help senior soldiers transition every day, and they're working up to the last second. Like, I got your back. I will tell you what you need to do. You just help follow me as we go. And I'll tell you at this point in time, you need to do this. At this point in time, we need to do this. You need to go see the doctor a lot as we get further in. Because, you know, if it's not read in your medical records, it never happened. No. For at least for the VA disability stuff. So if you broke your finger and never told anybody about it never happened.
It's not service connected.
I can prove it. You can go talk to the doc about it now, and they X-ray and go, oh yeah, there's a break. You didn't have that break before you came in the Army. So now I can service connect it. Then go run to the doctor and get all, you know, at some point in the last 2 years or so, you got to start looking at yourself. Especially as you get senior. And you know, there's some things, because once the Army's done with you, you're done.
Yeah.
So you're wrong, as you mentioned earlier. I'm training my replacement every day. So the number one thing I would say to a transitioning soldier is first listen to what's in there, ask questions, and again we go back to your mentor thing. Find you a mentor who has done it and ask you and works it. Sit down with soldiers every day. Okay, that retiring is one thing, separating is one thing, medical. There are so many different things, and finding somebody who understands that. And while our MPDs are great, they can't drill down to your individual process.
Nah.
So so a lot of my time, they're doing sitting down again, their VA plan, is talking to them about this process. It has nothing to do with their VA plan. You know, hey, make sure it's who you're writing your resume. You have a big one. The big one has everything. And I'm saying if you got a folder when you go to get a job, to the description is asking for. If not, you're not going to get an interview. And I'll tell you, I was doing interviews today for a position. And really good folks interviewed for the job. The military member did very, very well. And it showed in his I had to call him last night and said, dude, you need to change your resume to say these things. Or I can't hire you. Because if I audited, selected you to be interviewed without you meeting your qualifications. I need you to say these things. So you got to do that and be prepared to do that on performance notice. Medical stuff, your family. It's not just a transition for the individual. It's a complete transition of life. I mean, it's a whole, they call it a new chapter. Oh no, brother, it's a whole new volume.
Yeah.
It's not a chapter of one thing, it's a volume. However, my life's transition with it is I maintain with the enemy, which in this case, soldiers. I maintain contact with soldiers intentionally. So I don't feel the emptiness that some people have when they get out, because I'm out here talking to individuals daily on my choice. Being involved and trying to, and the best thing about being out now and doing all this is my advice is worth every piece of cent you pay me. So take it or leave it. It's not, but but the value of the advice is different, and that's one of the things I tell is like, if you've got an issue that you can't correct because of your, with the roles that I play between retirement counsel and other things, chamber commerce roles and stuff like that, maybe I can assist, but I need to understand what you're trying to get to, garrison commander in the local community. And you can only do certain things. I know that. What is it you're trying to get to? Let me help you shape it on the outside. That's me. I don't expect everybody to do that. But what that gets to is your sphere of influence has changed once you're out.
Yeah.
So if you want to be engaged, you have opportunity to be engaged. And we, the Army, need you engaged because you know who the number one recruiter for the Army military is? You and I.
Veterans. Yeah. Veterans.
The veterans. And they don't need you to go into a school and say, hey, I need you to raise your right hand. They need you to just tell your story.
Your story, yeah.
Tell your story about what was great in the Army. I sat next to Lieutenant General Davis last week. He's definitely, our numbers are great. Things are changing. We're doing great. We're meeting our recruiting goal for this year. But the environment has completely changed since January. We don't know what that looks like. So, how is that going to make any changes, and how is that going to do things with all the things that are going on? But the most Americans want to do good things, but we got to find is the propensity to serve. Your firefighters, policemen, your stuff. That's the kind of people we want to be soldiers. We can't take everybody out of the city that we want to do good things in the city. They're less than 23% of the graduating class of high school students. Oh, by the way, it's not high school students that are joining the Army right now. You know what the average age of a new recruit is?
35.
23. 23. So post high school. Now, again, big number of that goes like what the average retirement age is a class of 21 years. You and I. So people retire at 20. So the same thing. Yes, a large number of incoming soldiers every day are high schoolers, but there's a lot more that are going to college, lived a lot, a little bit. So that's we understand that it's not just high school that is the target. It is that guy that's the to get public. 50. They see you wearing your veteran hat, and you just talk to them and be nice to them, and just tell them your story, and you're setting conditions across everything that you do every day, helping the recruiters do their job of bringing qualified folks to come in and defend us. And that's just not just the Army; it's across all 5 services, 6 services.
Yeah. That's amazing. I appreciate you sharing that with us here today, because you're absolutely right in terms of veterans, as far as can serve as a positive influence to folks who may potentially want to join the military, who have no idea what the military is all about. So I have no problem when I go. I have no problem talking to folks about the military, most especially young folks. You know what I'm saying? So what are you doing? What's your plans? Have you consider the military? And to talk about the military story, my story, hopefully, to give them a bigger picture in terms of how things work in the military and hopefully how they can serve their country, but also benefit from it as well. You highlight just a little bit. I think you talk about the family piece. I mean, that's one area we don't talk about that often, right? And they have the military family month, the military child month, whatever. You and your spouse, came from inception up to your transition. A lot of folks don't experience that because every family is different. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's situation is different so far. How important you think is the family dynamic in terms of through your military career and through transitioning so far? What are some things that you thought you did? Some things you guys did right as a family, some things you think you could improve in and stuff like that. Because the family piece plays a huge role considering the constant PCS move, the deployment, the training, the long hours, the long night, while the wife or kids doing the thing. So how were you able to somewhat balance all of that?
Uh, ooh, I wish there was an easy button for that one. There's not. So you and your spouse's life have to be in sync, well, more than balanced. And it's not a 50-50. It's 100-100. You both got to be
Yeah.
given into it. And understanding that there's going to be those hard days. I mean, there were some extremely hard days. There still are. Even after getting out, there's extremely hard days. I get Kelly and I have been married for almost 34 years.
Man, that's
So
amazing, man.
I mean, that's a gratitude now. And I'm trying to figure out why. Number one, I guess, first off, yes, but number two is, I went to work so I could be in charge because I went in charge of,
We know that. We know.
Kelly. But it's
Oh man.
you gotta give, 100% and take what's
Yeah.
there. But it's a constant, just like your self care. There's that family care. I mean, I tell a joke all the time that the best way to potty train your child is go to Korea because when I came back, they were potty trained. That's the
Yeah, we're
best
trained
way
walking and stuff.
yeah, best way to train them. Go to war because I come back. They got driver's license. Um, it's a joke, but it's just that both of you have to be fully committed to the family, and at some point you got to understand that hey, I'm gonna have, you know what, man, you're not, you haven't yet, or vice versa,
Yeah.
woman that, and it, oh, your role is this, your role is this, no, it's our role. We, and I'll tell you the other part to it, and it's is it's not just you or you and your spouse and your kids. There's this thing we call FRAM, friends, your family. It's a village. And
Yeah.
that goes into the same thing as a mentorship. You have people that you can lean on outside of your family core, close enough to be family, that you can, it helps get through those times when you and her, and, I know there's many times my wife may love me, but she hates me, but so having, both folks having that, and then the kids, my kids, my son was involved heavily in Scouts and helped a lot as much as I could as Scout Master stuff, but Eagle Scout, daughter did stuff like in the Girl Scouts. Those activities bring them a little bit more assistance. And I use that.
Yeah.
I looked at another soldier or a mom, in most cases, mom said, hey, we need you to talk to John, specifically in the Scouts. What's wrong with that? What do you mean? Because she's a Boy Scout age, that 12 to 16-year-old that smells like rum. Well, you can tell you don't get that. What do they hear?
Yeah.
But I say something to your child, like, hey, let's go over and sit down and talk about this. They hear it.
It clicks. Yeah. It clicks.
So that's so having, when you talk family, you've got to open that aperture up a little bit more. And you have those, again, it goes back to the mentorship thing too, as well. But it's, friends who are close to family, that those folks that you're going to sit down and talk about things that you may not even talk to about. And that's what I find is more instrumental than anything in having a successful, marriage and career. And it helps outside of this in my career and outside of it. I actually have more support system now than I did when we talked about kids to let you have.
Yeah.
And now my support system is probably the largest it's ever been, but it's also the gate because I stay engaged, doing things
Okay. Sure.
with so many organizations, and I search those organizations out. In Association United States Army, within PPA, kids with scholarships, and same thing with the Army Leadership Association of America, and the board for the local museum, doing the things I do with the Chamber of Commerce, the VFW, and the DAV, and I can keep going. But because of those relationships that the Army taught me how to groom, I can more good in my life. I want to tell you one last story that I was going to recent. One of my young soldiers of mine, he was one of my first lines in my third battalion. Automatic Club board president, location he ran. Great guy, great guy. The guy that I went to ask things as a battalion. He was my 18th first line. He retired not quite 2 years ago. I did his claim. Brigade sergeant at that point in time. When he retired. So 3 weeks ago, he decided that he had a note on his garage door for his wife. And he said, "Don't open the garage. Call the police." Now I'm dealing with the family, go through their stuff and everything. And people to talk to. So you got to know that you got that. That is, I mean, and dealing with the family situation and going through all that stuff that isn't what is no longer there for the family. It's tough. Because again, he was the guy who would not have thought. I knew he was going to but the demon, and now there's one less mentor for me. And he was that guy. So if for your audience out here, number one thing I would ask is if you get to those spots and you got to have help, do not hesitate to reach out to anybody. To those folks, you need to have those folks that you're ready to talk to about that. And you as a could be hearing it. You got to be ready to hear that. And what do you do? And I can't answer the question for anybody else. And it's all. But open my eyes to some of the why I do the things. Back to the real question. I do the things I do, and I'll tell you it's selfish. It's selfish. So I don't end up with the note.
Thanks for sharing that, man. I had another colleague of mine was on here not too long ago, Webster, to talk about the scene stuff. Man, we have our brothers and sisters in arms that we are losing every day. And Tim would say 21 every 21 seconds a veteran, commits suicide, and it's very, very, very unfortunate, right? Because you don't see it. Folks who are doing well, but internally you have no idea what's going on so far. And just to just re-echo just the sentiment you just stated so far, if you have any issues, whatever the case may be, talk to somebody. I have a guy that I talk to every day. My old first sergeant, I talk to him every day. I have friends that I talk to. I call you once in a while, I check on you, whatever. I think we have to check one another. I think it's very, 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 very important because once you transition, man, you are in a whole new different operation environment because things are changing. Some things you may not be used to, you may not be exposed to, but the assistance is out here. The VA, have a huge, as far as assistance program to assist veterans. They have the crisis hotline. They got different things that folks can tap into. But I think it's key, as you stated, right, to just check on your buddy once in a while. Say, hey, man, Mike, how you doing, man? How's the family doing? It goes a long way, man. So I appreciate you, man. Really, I appreciate you. I'm gonna have to bring you back on the show again to talk about, really, to go deep dive inside the chief of staff of the army as far as retired, soldier council. I really wanted to learn more about it. I know you guys are doing some wonderful job in terms of providing some recommendations in terms of how to assist veterans and the family out there as we transition. So again, I appreciate, man. I appreciate your help. I appreciate your friendship, your brotherhood, and tell the wife I say hi. And I really appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot for what you do.
Well, Sam, I appreciate you asking me to come on. I appreciate your audience for listening. I know there's some of these specifics and stuff, but number one is to keep the faith, and you know, you don't like to serve the Army one because that's something that you like to be and stuff. But the Army, you may be done with you, but you don't have to be done with the Army. You can continue to serve in
Yeah.
your community, utilizing the skill sets that you were not even, I wouldn't even say learn, I was forced to. Well, I would say, you can use in your community so you can do good things for your communities on a daily basis because of what, if you think there's a problem, then what are you doing to make this?
As always, brother, I really appreciate you, man. Again, thanks a lot for what you do. So